I didn't hesitate for a moment in becoming patron. I think to have used my position as the longest-serving Premier of the state, and later holding the position when I served as Australian Foreign Minister, might have lent it a bit of respectability. In other words, this is a group to be taken seriously. And everything I feared has come to pass about these exceptionally high rates of immigration in terms of the cities becoming less habitable. You've had high density living forced on communities without the sensitive attention to design and location that I would very much have wanted to have seen. I wanted to challenge Australia to think whether there was a better way of us reaching our potential as a nation than simply being embarked on a trajectory of endless population increase. So I made a somewhat provocative statement, but I did it very deliberately. Yet what I said was true. It was true that the pressures within the Sydney Basin meant pressures on water and energy. It meant, as a greenhouse contributor, we were rising in the ranks. It meant more pressure on bushland around Sydney, which is one of the glories of Sydney life. And it meant we were crafting an economy that depended even more on apartment and shopping centre construction. That's been the driver, even more so in recent years, of economic growth, and I think it's a very bad model. When I was making those comments as Premier of New South Wales, and before that, when I was opposition leader, before 1995, goodness, a long time ago, no other political leader would come out and endorse them. Today, no leader of a major political party would simply say, I believe in a big Australia. They know that the public is saying, hang on, we're seeing a rapid change in the nature of our cities. No one asked us about it. Immigration has doubled. The public is saying, don't tell us it doesn't have an effect. Don't tell us you've got plans for infrastructure when we see ourselves being overwhelmed by congestion. So the public understand this, and I find it very, very interesting that premiers these days, Berejiklian in New South Wales, is using the same language I use. The public wants, at the very least, a breathing space, and they're intelligent enough to ask the question, well, okay, you've got us to 25 million, and it's happened 20 years earlier than we were told back in the early 2000s it was going to happen. What do you do next? What do you do when we reach 30 million, 50 million? Are you telling us, Canberra, are you telling us that there's no other economic model but to jam bigger and bigger numbers, especially into our three biggest cities, and to ignore all the advice about the fragility of rainfall patterns in Australia, all the advice about our soils, and to say the one economic model is to pump up population increase? Any high school geography student can tell you that the Australian continent is more like North Africa, with a narrow, fertile coastal strip and then a vast arid zone, than it is like North America, with its vast inland river systems and its mountain ranges. Australia's nothing like that. Some of the key principles in our foreign aid have got to be elevating the rights of women and girls, because whenever you do that, you have women choosing to have smaller families, and the rate of population growth in developing countries eases off. The key to it is to see that women are able to make choices about their fertility. So elevating the rights of women and girls, it was a theme being pushed by Hillary Clinton, and I wanted to take it up, and I did. And also seeing that fertility issues, reproduction, were goals of our foreign aid program. Well, the interesting thing is about what hasn't been an issue. People with migrant backgrounds themselves understand the point I'm making. perhaps because of the way I've chosen to make it, and I've made it the same way over many years. And that is that you can have a debate about numbers without sending any message about where the migrants come from. And I cut off any discussion when an interviewer starts saying something about Islamic migration or years ago Asian migration. It's not about the source, it's about the numbers, stupid, and that's got to be the message we return to on every occasion. It's not about social cohesion. Australia's done very well at that. It's about the economic and planning and environmental implications of us having a model based on remorseless population increase. The politicians have taken the approach implicitly that we are the grown-ups in the room. Ignore the public. They're going to be wrong about immigration. They might be tinged by racism, but we're going to make hard decisions, and we're going to lift our wine glasses at the annual dinner of the Business Council of Australia and say, yes, you can count on us. We believe in a big Australia, especially those of development companies, land development companies. The great retailers will say, well, that's terrific, at least a bit of common sense. Don't listen to the populists who are telling you we've got to think about this a bit more deeply. No, I think the view of conventional political leaders has been, we can get away with this as long as there's no debate. This unites the political parties. You've got the Conservatives. They're thinking of people in their base who might be attracted to Pauline Hanson, but they feel they're accountable to the big shots in the business community. Right through to the Greens, who find uncomfortable a debate about population numbers because they're running strongly on refugee rights and are trying to build links with great ethnic communities. The Liberals need to understand that the public's very intelligent. It can make a distinction between racist appeals, which by and large they don't want, and an argument about numbers. And the Greens on the other end of the spectrum need to understand that a lot of their support base is saying, yes, but the biggest threat to environment is this remorseless increase in human pressure on a continent dried out with erratic rainfall, vulnerable vegetation, thin layer of fertile soils that was never meant to sustain a population of 50 or 100 million. This is why we need the people in Sustainable Population Australia, because they're able to make the case. This debate has got nothing to do with considerations of race or social cohesion. It's not about that. It's about numbers and the environmental and planning and economic implications of simply going for more. I think people can understand that.